Action creates clarity. If you don't learn anything else from this video, action creates clarity. Now, if you stick around for 10 to 15 minutes, allow me to explain, I think you'll learn a thing or two about how to achieve your goals. Now, I am by no means an expert, but I feel that through a lot of thinking, and a lot of trial and error, I have found that this is the most effective way to stay consistent on anything. So, step one is pick a goal. I know everyone has a goal. I know you watching at home have a goal. Whether it's becoming a runner, or going to the gym, or becoming a world-class musician, or whatever your goal may be, being rich, making a lot of money, starting that business, right? It requires one thing: consistent effort. How do we put consistent effort without getting that mental fatigue, without procrastinating, without thought spiraling? Well, there's three principles, and I like to call the concept of these three principles start point. So what is start point? Well, start point is the simple philosophy that there is a barrier, a metaphoric barrier, a mental barrier between you and your goals. So, how do we overcome this barrier? And how do we get out of thinking and into doing? I'm sure many of you can relate to the thought that you've wanted a goal and you've wanted it so bad and you've wanted to do it and I want to do it and I want to achieve it, but it's too overwhelming. I want to start going to the gym, but what do I do? What am I going to do there? How am I going to, I don't even know what exercises to do, or I want to start practicing, but my instrument, but I don't even know where to start. I don't know what to practice. I want to do it, but I'm not doing it. Why? The start point barrier. So, how do we overcome the start point barrier? Well, there's three principles. Less thinking, more doing. First principle. So, it's pretty self-explanatory, but what you want to do is when you have a goal, you have to think about what is the first most important thing that you can do to work towards this goal, and just do it. It doesn't matter if you're successful, because success isn't the goal. Success isn't, you're not trying to be successful, you're just trying to do. You're trying to metaphorically throw the dart and see how far you're off, right? So, and the less that you can think and the more that you can do, the more you'll get done. Now, when I first thought about less thinking, more doing, I actually thought that it was universal, as in any goal at any time, you could always apply less thinking, more doing, and it would work. And that's kind of true, but not really. Less thinking, more doing does work, but only for the start point era. Once you're past start point, you want to think a little bit so that you can refine your practices in order to get the best results. But in the start point era, which is what you are in, you don't need to be doing any sort of thinking. It just needs to be doing. So if I want to start a business, well, actually, I'm gonna use a different example. If I want to be a runner, an Olympic runner, right? Day one, I'm not going to think about the best running exercises to build, like strength or whatever. No. I'm just going to run. I'm just going to go outside and run. Doesn't matter for how long, doesn't matter for how far, just run. Day two, do the same thing. Just run. Don't think about it, just run. The less thinking, the more doing, the more you'll achieve. But I don't know if that's a good way to put it. The less thinking, the more doing, the more your brain will get used to it. In your brain, the way your brain works is that your brain doesn't associate what it does with goals. So if I set a goal, your brain's not going to say act according to the goal. It's going to act according to what it's used to, according to what you've previously done. That's why when when you don't know what to do, whenever you're distracted, you pull out your phone and you start doom scrolling because your brain is used to that. It's a habit, right? So in order to build the habit, you have to do less thinking, more doing. Now, something that's very, very helpful in less thinking, more doing is curiosity. Curiosity is key. If you're not curious about the subject, you're never going to want to do it, right? You're never going to be inclined to learn about it or to pursue it in that sort of way. So, if I want to be a world-class musician, I'm not going to start with the best fundamental exercises. I'm going to start by being curious. I'm going to start by finding my favorite music, finding what makes me passionate, right? What makes me passionate about the thing. If I want to be a really good athlete, I'm going to figure out why. Why do I love it? What makes that spark go off in my brain that makes me excited to do the thing? And what builds that curiosity, right? Because if you don't have that curiosity, you're going to feel like you're dragging yourself through this thing, right? And discipline is good, right? But I like the word devotion over discipline. I feel that discipline is a very cold word. It's a very it's like you're dragging yourself. It's like cold. It's very like harsh, right? Devotion comes from love. Devotion is a loving word. It says that I love this thing and therefore I'm going to put effort towards it. So, all right. So, last thing we're doing, curiosity is key. What's the third thing? Success is not the goal. I think I mentioned this earlier, but success is not the goal. Between the first 3 hours and the first 3 days of any goal, success is not the goal. It doesn't matter how far you get. It doesn't matter how much you achieve. It matters that you do the thing. And it matters that you do it without thinking. Because the more that you do the thing, the more clarity you'll receive. If I just do the thing for 3 days without thinking, I'll have a lot more clarity of, okay, what do I need to refine? I'll give you an example in my own life. So, I'm a musician. I'm trying to get into music school right now. And when I first started consistently and devotionally practicing, is that a word? When I started devotionally practicing my instrument, I came across this problem where I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to practice. I didn't know what I was doing. But now I can tell you exactly, I can verbatim rattle off what I'm going to work on. After this, I'm going to go practice, and I know exactly and specifically what I'm going to practice. Why? Because initially, when I didn't, I just did it. I just picked up the horn, and I let my curious brain guide me. And once I practiced for 3 days, I realized, okay, well, maybe I'm bad at, playing high notes. Maybe now that I've played for a while, I can kind of see that I'm struggling with this thing, right? Something that I think is very important that I remember that I learned from a world-renowned saxophone player, Patrick Bartley, was that post-editing files here. I completely brain farted during that and completely forgot my point. But what I was trying to say is that there was a point made by Patrick Bartley in one of his videos where he says that there are no weak spots for a young musician because everything is a weak spot because when you're starting out, like everything's a weak spot basically. That there is nothing like a lot of musicians are like, oh well, I need to work on this thing or I need to this is my weakness. But like if you're just starting, everything is a weakness. You need to be working on everything across the board. And I was gonna make a point about how that ties into less thinking, more doing. Of you just need to do it because there is no weak spots. But yeah, that's my little tidbit. So sorry guys, had to cut that. So to recap, last thing we're doing, curiosity is key. Success is not the goal, and action creates clarity. This is the concept of start point. So if you appreciate my friendly diagram, this is you, this is consistent effort, and this is your goal. So if you can pass the start point barrier by thinking less and doing, you'll get to the point where the effort is consistent. Once the effort is consistent, then you reach your goal. Ladies and gentlemen, start point.